So how can a country be a kingdom and a democracy at the same time? I mean, really, in Thailand, this isn't just some abstract political science question. It's a real, deep paradox. And it all revolves around this idea of royal power that gets its strength, get this, from the very fact that it's never fully explained. So yeah, let's dive right in.
All right, this quote really gets to the heart of what we're talking about. The Thai monarchy isn't just there for ceremonies and parades. It's seen as this final safety device. Think of it like an emergency brake for the whole country. But here's the kicker. This brake is totally outside the normal political system. And a lot of people argue that this unexplained outside power is exactly what's stopping Thailand's democracy from, really growing up.
So right away, you see the central paradox, this huge conflict. You've got a kingdom and you've got a democracy. Officially, they're supposed to work together. But what's really going on is that one part, the kingdom, seems to play by a completely different set of rules, or maybe no rules at all. So let's break down what that actually means.
Yeah, that phrase, final safety device, you've got to remember that one. It's absolutely key. Because this isn't a role that's written down in any constitution or law book. It's more of an understanding, an idea that the monarchy can and should step in as the final judge during a massive national crisis. But here's the problem. Since it's not written down, there are no public rules. No one knows when it's supposed to be used, or why, or how. It's a power that exists completely outside the very system it's supposed to be protecting.
And this leads us to a really, really important point. It's easy to think the issue is about how strong the monarchy is, but that's not it. The real issue, the thing that makes it so unique, is that the power is unexplainable. In fact, its power comes from being unexplained. That ambiguity is where the real strength lies.
Okay, look at this comparison. It makes it super clear. On one side, you've got places like the UK or Japan. There, the monarch's role is spelled out, right? It's defined, it's limited by law, they're symbolic figureheads. But in Thailand, it's the exact opposite. The role is intentionally left vague, not spelled out. So while it's not supposed to be political, everyone kind of expects it to step in during a crisis. But the rules for when that happens? Totally secret. The public has no idea. So you see, it's not about the power itself. The problem is that nobody can explain where that power begins or ends.
So you got to be asking yourself, right, how on earth did a system like this even come to be? I mean, this stuff doesn't just pop up overnight. So to really get it, we have to look back at the history.
And the answer really is rooted in a unique story of national survival. It's all about an informal alliance, a kind of handshake deal between the country's most powerful groups, all to keep the nation from falling apart.
Here's something you have to understand about Thailand. It was never colonized. Think about that. Pretty much all of its neighbors were taken over by European powers, but not Thailand. And that is a huge deal for national identity. Because of that, the monarchy became more than just a ruler. It became the living symbol of the nation's independence. It's very continuity.
So fast forward to the 20th century. You've got the Cold War raging, instability all over the region, and these three major players in Thailand, the monarchy, the military, and the government bureaucracy, they basically form an unspoken pact. Their one and only goal? Do whatever it takes to keep the country from collapsing. And in this deal, the monarchy was positioned in a really interesting place. Not above democracy, not below it, but completely outside of it, like a separate pillar holding everything up.
And you know what? For decades, this system seemed to work. I mean, really well. During the Cold War, Thailand stayed stable while its neighbors were in chaos. In the 80s and 90s, even with political turmoil, the economy just kept on growing. And more recently, during big political deadlocks in the 2000s, it was often the king's intervention that was seen as the thing that broke the stalemate. So all of this success built up this powerful idea. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or maybe more accurately, if it works, why on earth would we need to explain it?
But here's the thing about a system that just works. What works for one generation can be a huge source of anxiety for the next. And that's exactly what's happened. A new generation, connected to the world through the internet, has started to challenge this old way of doing things.
And the question they're asking isn't necessarily an attack. It's actually much simpler and maybe more powerful. It's just this. Why isn't it explained? This is so important to get right. For many, it's not about being anti-monarchy. It's about being anti-unexplained power.
And this right here, this is the generational divide in a nutshell. For older folks, that unexplained, almost sacred power of the monarchy was a good thing. It meant stability, it was something to revere. But for a lot of younger people, that exact same lack of explanation is terrifying. It's a source of anxiety. What was once a safety net now feels like a cage. And all of this leads to the situation Thailand is in today. Basically, political paralysis. It's dangerous, even legally risky, to talk openly about the monarchy's role in politics. But if you can't talk about it, how can you ever understand or fix the political system? You can't. So the whole country is stuck, forced to talk around the biggest issue, and democracy is just frozen.
Okay, so at this point you might be thinking, wow, that's a really specific Thai problem. But hold on, the reason this whole story is so important is because it shines a massive spotlight on a blind spot that exists in pretty much every political system out there. Seriously, think about it. Every nation has some kind of unexplained power operating outside the official rulebook. In Japan, you've got the emperor's symbolic but still very real influence. In the US, what about the ever-growing power of presidential authority? And in China, the absolute untouchable role of the party. These are all pockets of power that aren't fully explained or debated. The thing is, in Thailand, the consequences of that unexplained power are just way more obvious and dramatic.
So this brings us to a whole new way of looking at the problem. Maybe the issue isn't that Thai democracy is immature or that it's failing. What if it's a perfectly fine democratic system that's just being held back by this external safety device that was built for a totally different time? The very tool that was designed to stop the system from collapsing might now be the very thing stopping it from growing.
And that really brings us to the final big idea I want to leave you with. Maybe the problem in Thailand isn't really about the monarchy at all. Maybe the problem is an entire mindset, the attitude of a state that has just stopped explaining itself. It's about that incredibly difficult shift from a system based on quiet, unspoken rules to one based on open debate and public accountability. And when you think about it, that's a challenge that every single country, in its own way, has to face sooner or later.